And see,
He was getting his contract.
well, not only that, it took them 1 week to find $60 million.
What do you mean find it?
Find it. It wasn't part of the bond package the first time around. It was excluded. So
Total is $1,050,984,000.
yeah.
These people thought do they have any idea how much money that actually
Well,
is?
remember the mayor started saying that our taxes weren't going to increase with
I don't know
road
how in
bonds?
the hell you're not going to.
Shit, now I got a letter saying it's going to go up $125
A year or a month or what?
a year.
Yeah, you know, me and Ma were just, we should be up for, me and Ma were just looking at our old house, like $250,000. That's even if we paid it off, it's still have to pay $900 a month just for taxes. What?
Here we go.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Larry, Gavino,
Yeah.
appreciate you coming up.
Well, thank you for the invite.
Yeah, I was just looking at this here, $1,050,984,000.
What is that number?
That's total bond cost.
That's the proposed total amount of the bond package that will be seen on November the 7th. That's going before the voters, us the voters. And
That's just for Austin City.
this is
City
just for
limits.
Austin, and it's supposed to rehabilitate many schools and build some new schools throughout the district. But one of the negative impacts that this package has is that it will close 6 East Austin schools, 3 that are close to where I live, Metz, Sanchez, and Brook. And these are schools that have been there for many, many years. And the reasons they cite the closures because of low attendance. But if you look at the district, from a district-wide perspective, those schools that are over capacity in the outskirts, if they were to be bussed in to fill in these inner city schools, then we wouldn't have this type of large bond package, I would say, before the voters. But the board, AISD board, really put themselves out there at a risk, in my opinion, by putting a $5 billion bond package for us taxpayers who are already
$1,050,984,000.
where we're already taxed to the max. I remember your mayor telling us that, if we voted for the mobile bond, that we weren't going to see an increase in our property taxes. Well, guess what? The latest word out there is that it's going from anywhere to $100 and $125 dollar increase for this year. And for those of us that live there, I mean, we're already, busting at the seams in regards to trying to remain there in East Austin with all this increase in taxes. But the bond package, basically, when you look at it from a outside angle, from an overall perspective, it basically builds new schools on the outskirts for the well-to-do, and it closes the inner city schools where parents have very little voice and are not listened to. I told the president, Kendall Pace, yesterday in a discussion we had.
And she is?
The president of AISD School Board. And I mentioned to her, I commend the lots of parents. And I commend your parents for being able to successfully lobby you and the board to be able to come up with this type of bond package where, it caters to your constituency. I said, but, it totally excludes us from this whole process, and it basically leaves a bond that sends a strong message of us going back to segregation. So many people out in the community I think this past weekend, the Democratic subcommittee voted to delay their recommendation on this issue because there's a lot of conscience feelings about us going back to segregation and having maybe our kids bused, and we don't even know where they're going to be bused. But another pitch in this bond program, and as you and I were talking, from 1 week to the next, the initial bond program did not include a Mueller Middle School. Did not include it because we didn't want to. They didn't want to go over $1 billion and increase taxes with a bond. But between a 1 week to 2 weeks, they found $60 million, and now it's part of the bond package. While we're closing Met, Sanchez,
New build, 800 student capacity, $60,958,000.
and you have birth and means around that area that's going to be shut down, and you just kind of like shake your head. And then the other part that's going to be displaced and affected by this bond, if it passes, is the displacement of the students at Eastside Memorial to house the LASA program at the Eastside Memorial, and the plan is to build a new Eastside Memorial on the former Anderson properties. But on that issue, I'll pass it on to Larry Amaro, who's president of the Johnston Alumni.
Before you do, can I throw this one in
Sure.
there? Build modernized new high school at original Anderson, that's the one you're talking about, right?
Yes.
800 student capacity, $80 million. It costs more to modernize that school with less students, with the same number of students as to the new build. It says new build for this one in, when you talk about northeast there,
That's in Mueller.
Mueller.
The middle school that Mueller parents lobbied the school board to
Yeah.
to include in this bond package, under the argument that when
that's
that
new build, $60 million, and this rejuvenate is $80 million.
right, right. So, Larry,
Yeah.
you want to talk
Okay,
about
sure.
East Side?
Here's the thing. You mentioned the Northeast Junior High School, middle school. Now, that school, you're right, it wasn't in the bond package towards the end. The Facilities and Bond Committee had put that in as one of the recommendations. They kept going in and out. Put it in, no, don't put it in. Put it in, take it out, no. So before I went to the last school board voting, it was out. It wasn't in there. But then after more of the debate and more people chiming in, it was put in. Now, the LASA program, for those of you who don't know what LASA stands for, LASA, it's Liberal Arts and Science Academy. What happened there was that the parents, some of the parents at LASA wanted a place for their own. They wanted a building so they could grow up to about 2,000 students to be able to compete with some of the large such schools in Chicago and in other cities that were number one in the nation. So the few of the parents at LASA wanted to do the same thing. They wanted to be in the top 5 or close to top 1, and they figured that was the only way they could do that to compete. So they wanted a building on their own. The Anderson High School building was too small, they said. There were a couple of other buildings. Allen Junior High School building also too small for them because that was built for 700. There was another school, I forgot which. Anyway, so they went to 3 schools, and they looked at Johnston High School, and that campus was made for 1,500. So they figured, well, we just need spaces for 500 more. Maybe we can move in there. In the meantime, where we're growing, right now it's too big for us, but because they only have, I think, 800 students, between 500 and 800 students at this current time. So they said, we can move in there. So the school district followed them. They said, well, you're right. That would be a good place for you because for those of you that know the history of Johnston, the Liberal Arts Academy was made during desegregation years to desegregate, integrate the races there at Johnston. The Science Academy at the same time was built at LBJ to do the same thing there, to integrate at LBJ. And things worked out great in those years. Johnston went up to 2,000 students. LBJ, I don't know how many they had. Do you remember? I guess close to that same number, right? So they were both flourishing. But then what happened was they put the Liberal Arts Academy at LBJ, so it became LASA. So now these parents, they went to the school board and they said, well, and this was after all the studies of the Facilities and Bond Committee. This is nowhere in there. They didn't they talked about Lhasa moving, but there's nowhere in there to put Lhasa Johnston. It wasn't until the last few weeks before the voting was to be that they brought this forth. And so things were hurried up 1 week before, in outside meetings. I went to one of them. They discussed that. The Monday after the Wednesday meeting, before the vote, they put it into the bond package. The final Monday, a week later, they voted it in. That's how it got into that list, just like that. There was no time for community engagement for this. So whenever they talk about community engagement, how great they are at community engagement, not true. This is a prime example.
And a lot of the presentations that they make when they make it comes from their perspective. That it's a win-win
Oh my gosh.
situation, and you know, and it's the best thing that is for us, you know, in our community, is for this bond to pass.
They know what's best for you.
Yeah.
I don't mean to
So-
laugh, but
But you know, it's weird. You know, your friend Alex Jones always talks about conspiracies.
it turns out.
And this one seems to be one following suit, because you have the city government, the city of Austin, changing our zoning, closing our swimming pools, closing our parks, gradually increasing our our property taxes, so they reach a price we can't no longer live there. And then here comes AISD, another government entity, you know, closing our schools. So, you know, little by little, they're exiting us out of our own land and communities that many of us grew. And like I mentioned to someone, I said, you know, these are schools that have been here for 50 or more years, where, you know, families have you know, brothers, generations have built histories with these institutions. And for them to go there, to even go there and show this is a equitable bond package is, I mean, it's just mind-boggling to me, especially today being in 2017. You know, I didn't think that.
What did you used to call this? Not gentrification.
Genocide.
Genocide.
Yeah.
Hey,
this-
you voted for 'em. I didn't vote for none of them.
Yeah.
Everybody over there on the east side voted for these people.
Well, and see, that's the other thing that you know, we also want to emphasize and educate our parents, because we had a pretty good meeting at Metz Recreation Center,
Oh, yeah.
a good turnout of parents from some of these schools that are being proposed to be closed, and to listen to their testimony. They made that night convince Travis County Commissioner
You want to put this
Gomez?
up anyway?
Gomez to support, you know, a no vote against the bonds. And that's, you know, that sends a very, very strong message coming from an elected official, that three of the schools that are going to be shut down are in her precinct as a commissioner. You know, so we thank her for taking that position, and we hope that, you know, others will follow suit, because even the Travis County Democratic Subcommittee that met in your neighborhood recently postponed the decision whether to oppose or support the bond to a 2-week delay.
Did they have a choice? I mean, the TDC, Travis County Democrat Party, is going to have to support this. This is their baby.
Well, the subcommittee
Uh-huh.
felt otherwise, you know.
Well, of course, just like the thing with, never mind. I can't start bad mouthing the other side over there too bad.
Now you mentioned the meeting at Metz. I want to mention the meeting, you know, I mentioned community engagement a while ago. Remember the two meetings after the school board had voted for the bond package? Remember they had two meetings at Johnston, one on I guess Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. Anyway, so they had those meetings. This was after they had already voted for the bond
Oh, yeah.
package.
Convenient.
So what kind of community engagement is there when you have the meetings after they've already voted for the package?
Yeah, after they made the decision that this is
Yes.
the package,
Yes.
then they run to say, oh, but we're going to have 2 meetings next week, and we want you to come out to the campus and share that, and share your input on what we've done, I guess.
That's
But-
right. And the meeting just before that, there was a small meeting I mentioned I went to. There were representatives from LBJ, from Johnson, myself, from Anderson High School, alumni there, and a couple of others, and so they were against the package. And this was presented as an idea that, okay, this is an idea. What do you guys think? We just want to know what you think. So it apparently didn't matter what we thought because we were against it, and they still brought it to the school board meeting to vote on it. So it's crazy. That's a top of community engagement. Also, those two meetings at Johnson, remember, the students from LBJ and the East Side Memorial at the Johnson campus, they were against it as well.
Yes.
And so most of the people there were against it. There were a few maybe that were brought along to speak for it, but for the most part they were against it. And so this has not come out. What you mentioned a while ago, Jamie on the school board says this is a win-win-win situation.
You mean my friend Jamie was that?
Yeah.
Yes, when those people they were saying it's a lose-lose-lose situation. So that's a type of board that we have that's not in sync with the community.
I hate to say it, I can't. It's like you want to laugh, but I'm embarrassed and ashamed sometimes. Was any of my people out there? I don't mean my people white. I mean, were any Republicans out there?
No, well, yes, Mike was out there.
That's good. Mike who?
Not Garcia.
Oh,
He's been on your show a couple of times.
our county commissioner?
No, Mike. I think that's it. But anyway, he was there, and
Garcia.
no, not Mike Garcia, the one that works at the Capitol.
Oh, yeah, it's Garcia.
Is that the one? And
Young
then
fella?
you had
good.
coat necks. What's his name? Sullivan out there.
Oh, well, at least there was some of our people out there.
Yeah,
There.
yeah, and Commissioner Gomez, like I said, and a lot of community people from the
She may not be my
neighborhood.
party, but I like Commissioner Gomez. She at least
You know,
shows up.
we had both Latino. We had all Latino press for some reason, and not the other press. We had Telemundo,
And two
Univision,
Republicans.
La Voz, and La Prensa were there. And I can't. Mike's gonna kill me. I can't remember his name. But anyway, yeah, he was there, and Gabe. No, I was gonna say Gabriel. No,
Alfredo.
Richard Franklin was there. All the old warriors.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that those meetings that were held at Johnson after the decision was made was kind of like a little bit of an insult. But we have to participate and go there because then one of the
You have
things they'll
to.
say, well, y'all didn't show up,
Wish
and,
I could have been there.
and we did. And it was, we had people from Dove Springs, a couple of parents from Dove Springs show
I
up
bet.
at the Johnston East Side. Your friend, what's his name?
Yeah.
The one that made the barbecue?
Oh, Robert?
The barbecue over here.
Oh, yeah, from Franklin.
Yeah.
Richard Franklin? Yeah.
No.
No.
The guy that made the barbecue at the fundraiser.
Oh, Lord,
Dove
now you're making me
Springs.
think.
Dove Springs. You're getting like President Bush.
I wish.
Well, I want to mention too at one of those Johnson meetings that they were going to split up the larger group in the cafeteria into smaller groups, but a couple of people stood up and said, no, we don't want to split up. We want to discuss things right here and now at the cafeteria. So because of that, they did stay as a large group, and so most of those people were against the bond program package on the Lhasa area. So
Yeah, well, one thing, from an economic point, $1 billion, that's a big price tag of a bond, to put upon
For a
us.
school isn't it supposed to be a shrinking student base?
Well, that's the other thing. They're losing students. So
And they don't know why.
Well, here's one explanation for that, and I'll tell people this all the time, that back when we had the desegregation going, they closed Allen Junior High School so they could bus those kids to West Austin. They bused them to O'Henry and other junior high schools.
Right.
From there, they would go on to their feeder pattern. In O'Henry's case, it was Austin High School. So half of the kids in East Austin then stopped going to Allen or Johnston because they're being bused elsewhere. Now, when they stopped busing from west to east, but they did not stop busing from east to west because they did not reopen Allen Junior High School. So if they had done that, we could have gone back to the population being there at Johnston, but it wasn't done so.
It was feeding
So-
into.
so-
Yeah, I understand now.
So then Johnson went from 1,500 students when I was going to school there down to half that size, about 800 students. After they took out LASA, it went down to 800 students. So they made up a new school called International High School, only for freshmen and sophomore students, not for 4 years. So they added maybe 200 students, but that was it. So and so still we had the students going elsewhere and not staying in East Austin.
And that's been the history of one of the negative histories of Johnson Eastside Memorial, is that there's been very little stability. They now have another new principal coming in this year. So it really doesn't provide any incentive for parents or the community to get involved, to get engaged, participate in their PTAs or whatever, because there's always this constant moving around, this constant changing, and that doesn't provide any continuity within the education format there at any school, not just Eastside Memorial. When you have teacher turnover as high as it is at Eastside Memorial as well, that's a contributing factor, because let me share something with you. On this closing of these schools, I've been calling people out. I'm saying, where's Senator Watson? Where's Eddie Rodriguez, state representative?
For that district, yeah.
Saying, we're going to go ahead and pass this bond and close these schools. Where are they in regards to speaking out and saying, this isn't something that's good for the whole community, overall
That's a good
community.
question. Where are they?
And some people are some people are opening their eyes and saying, wait a minute, I think we need to go back to the drawing board. This is not Austin. We're not going to, support a bond package that creates this kind of displacement of the inner city schools. And the other thing, because the other thing is that from the district, those schools that are looking at being closed, and I think Brook is probably the first one.
Brook is the first one.
According to their, numbers that they gave and that they see. Those parents, they haven't been told where their children are going. We know that they're not going to close this year.
Hold on, you mean
Correct.
for this year? Oh, okay, they're not closing this year.
Now with Brook, this could be the final, probably will be the
This
final
is
year.
the final year.
If they stay with the plan, this will be the final year, because the guidelines, the way they said was that if school can get up to 75% of capacity enrollment, then they can remain open. But Brook is nowhere near that. So you know, if they stay true to their guideline, after this year, there'll be no more Brook. I don't know my guess is half of them might go to Go Valley, the other half might go to Zavala or Metz. Who knows?
Yeah, and but it still has an effect and change of families getting their kids to their schools. Because again, let's say, they do, wherever they go, they're going to be bused. So they're going to have, instead of getting up at 6 in the morning, we're talking about 5 in the morning now just to get ready to catch that 6 a.m. bus to get to school in this inclement weather, and you know how Texas is. So it's those kind of effects that this bond is going to, when you look at it and you view it down to the ground level, that this is the type of effects it's going to have, because we heard testimonies at that meeting at Metz from parents that are telling us, we're tired of having our children be moved from one school to another. From every year, there's a different pattern, a different idea, and the other schools, the well-to-do schools, they keep excelling, they keep getting a lot of support. So I think that people in our community, especially parents that have children at these schools that they're talking about proposing to be closed, that they really, really get engaged and get involved. The election is November the 7th, and the early vote starts October the 23rd. So it's just down the road. It's not too far
away.
It's not too far away. And if the bond fails, life is going to continue. Many people are putting out there that, if the bond fails, we're not, it's like a critical crisis if it fails. But no, a lot of these proposals, building proposals, are projected for in the future. So I think that if we were to go back to the drawing board and look at it from what the voters are telling us, utilize what you have before you build more, I think that we'll see a totally different results. And maybe putting up a bond package another time that will include and won't be such negative in all the community.
Now that reminds me too that whether it passes or fails, the school last summer, not school, the school district last summer voted on selling about 8 to 10 buildings. 10, I think it went down to 8. One of those buildings was Allen Junior High School. So that would have been sold already if not for Brown Elementary School having to close last year because of the structure of the building. The kids had to go someplace, so they bused them to Allen Junior High School. And if it had not been for that, we would not be seeing Allen. It would have been getting turned into probably into a housing project, or it could have been part of UT Elementary, which that plan was stopped because one of the school board members
Which
said,
one was that, I wonder? My friend,
Mr. Jamie stood up and said, hey, this letter went to the parents that those UT Elementary School kids are going in the fall to Allen. And so he made a big stink about it with the other school board members, so they stopped the superintendent from doing that.
If I could, just to clarify, UT Elementary, now that is a charter school, right?
That
yes,
is a charter.
Run by the
yes.
University of Texas.
Yes.
Yes, correct.
Yes.
And when people say charter school, they're actually public schools.
That's right.
People try to put the term private in front of it, but that is not true. These are public schools supported by the state. The difference is that they don't have a tax base like the usual public school districts.
Or elected school boards.
Yes,
that's
and
the only-
so they but they do get the money. If kids are enrolled there, they get the money just like any other public school for each kid on a daily basis.
Sort of like money follow the student.
Yes, yes.
Well, I don't know if you all saw the most recent article where it lists, what was it, 20 or something about schools, failing schools here in Austin. It was a big old national,
FCA scores, what? That's what we're talking about?
is that what it was? And
I don't know what FCA scores
we
are.
had we had all kind of, but there was no charter school on that list. And I mentioned, I made a comment about that.
Well, I've been saving my
And-
political statement for later
And
on.
boy, did those attacks come out.
I bet they
But
did.
but here's the thing that I also call out the union, the teachers union. Come on, when Allen and IDEA was an issue, they were out there protesting. But you know what? The times that I went out there, I saw the large majority of the people were teachers, and it was a union that was doing the fight. There were some parents, I'm not going to say, but there weren't that many. It was more the union that was out there fighting against IDEA and, and that partnership. Fine. Where are they now? Why aren't they fighting?
That's my question.
Yeah.
Why are they not out there fighting for Allen
Yeah.
to be opened?
We open and I'm saying, wait a minute, what's
It'll
going on
be
here?
opened under a
But,
charter school management.
One of the things that Larry has been advocating all along, and it is true, if you were to open up Allen as a middle school, and it'd be a strong feeder to Johnston High School or Eastside Memorial, but you're pulling parts out of a vertical team that just leaves you hanging out there. And when Eastside Memorial it's going to go to another district. It won't be in District 2 anymore.
That means there won't be a high school.
So there
in
won't
East
be- we
Austin
won't
for
have
East
a-
Austin students.
We won't have a high school. And for my Democratic liberal hearts out there that constantly amplify their compassion and their kindness and their love and their care and whatever for us, where are you? This is a very, very bad bond proposal.
They're doing this for your benefit.
And
I I'm just joking. It's not.
Well, that is true, because they should be out there. Now,
Yeah.
here's the thing, you did mention the teachers' union, and what happened there was that there were some people, well, at Go Valley, there was a young man with a parent there, with a kid there, who has his wife as a teacher, librarian there, and so he did not want to see the Idea Allen come in. A few of the parents at Allen had been turned into an elementary school, and so those parents did not want their school to change. They want, because it was a big school, it was nicer than Brook and Go Valley. I don't blame them for that, but still, they didn't see the bigger picture of needing that school for their kids when they would get to junior high, middle school age. They didn't see that if it was there would not have to be bused clear across town. So they couldn't see that picture. But anyway, so some of those parents got a hold of the teachers and the teachers union. And the other thing was that the Idea Allen was going to be feeding into Johnston, and a few of the teachers there did not want things to change there, because they liked the way things were there at Johnston. So those teachers got together, and you're right, what you saw, it was mostly teachers. About 200 teachers were out there outside the board meetings at AISD with bullhorns even. And I remember, and this was really a sad picture. There were some students from my Idea Public Schools in South Texas that were there, and they were there because they were proud of their schools succeeding, and so they wanted to show that, hey, they're good people, they wanted to help out. And yet the president of the teachers union was out there with a bullhorn right in front of these kids, shouting at them, making them cry. And that is a sad picture of those teachers. I know that most teachers are not that way. Most teachers are very caring teachers. But those crazy teachers that were out there protesting, they should not be teachers because of the way that they acted.
Where's your mayor? Again, the mayor's out there,
He wants this.
institutional racism task force and displacement task force, and
He's the one who caused this. He wanted to fix it.
you know that it's interesting because he comes out with an institutional racism task force. It's for us to focus and discuss the issue. And having said that, you come out with a bond proposal that does exactly the same thing this task force talks about us not doing anymore, or not doing, and that's practicing racism. So many of these task forces that the mayor puts on together, to me it seems like he's posturing politically for his upcoming re-election, because we don't get anything out of it other than say I sat with the mayor and he heard me whine or vent, but there's no follow-up. So this is a big opportunity for them to illustrate to us in the community that they're really sincere about not being racist, not treating people different from lower incomes and lower from sides of town that are academically deprived all the time. And it will send a strong message, I think, to the community to say, look, we need to revisit this bond package. We do need that some of the items need to be done. There's no argument about that.
We can't go up on the machine
But-
working, and we show you on the screen.
But for the board, the majority of the board, to be zealous and come to us with a $1 billion and more bond package is really, really, really brave.
I want to comment on what you said about the racism. What happened back in the desegregation years was an attempt to integrate the races, because Austin was separated. The I-35 was a dividing line. So the court said, hey, you've got to integrate. And so they did. In my opinion, looking back at it now, if it stayed that way, it was working. but they didn't. What they did then was they brought in white students from West Austin, Southwest, Northwest to East Austin to integrate. And I know those students from the 80s. They get together, and I go to their reunions, and these guys are really happy people. They talk about how great it was to be at Johnston, and how they saw it was sad that they couldn't come to Johnston anymore. But then, so that integrated, that some of the kids from East Austin that went to West Austin, excuse me, they were, I guess they were happy. I haven't talked to them, but so the integration was doing its job. But now this does a reverse. So instead of bringing the white kids into Johnston and vice versa, what they're doing is they're getting all the white kids, and I'm saying mostly white kids from LBJ, to take over the Johnston campus, moving all the black and brown kids, putting them into the old black Anderson High School, and that is doing the reverse. It's separating the races, and that is something that the courts are not going to see in a positive manner.
This kind of sounds like a Trump
Can I throw
agenda.
something in there? Yeah, well, you gonna throw that?
We're gonna do a Trump
I
bond.
never followed this, the busing thing. You talk about Anderson High School. In '75, when they started busing from Anderson High School, it was mostly black, and they almost everybody graduated. They didn't have any of these problems we have now in the black community with the black fatherhood and stuff like that. A graduate from '75 Anderson could today's graduate can't even hold a candle to pass the same test. He could read his diploma and he knew what it said. And you talk about this integration thing, but I've always preferred, and most Republicans have, you go to your neighborhood school with the neighborhood kids. Now also I go in my political thing here about we support school choice.
All right.
Because, but that's also partially our fault because we didn't stay involved with the school board, and the white liberal Democrats took over, and now you got what we got now, which is, I don't know how this happened. But if you recall, you're old enough to remember when Anderson High School, it was mostly all black, had the best football team, the best marching band. If you talk to any of those alumni, they're really happy.
Well,
And they will also probably agree with me that it never should have been that way.
that's the same era that, Johnston was at its peak.
Yeah, in 75, 80.
Johnston and Anderson were rivals back in the day.
And what a football game that was.
Football game and the band. I remember old Lil Louie with Anderson. I don't know if you remember Louie, that short drum major from Anderson, the Yellow Jackets. And, we had but it's those type of experiences and that this bond will eventually erase,
Well, hold on. I didn't quite finish my
All right.
political thing there about my party because we this is really an excellent opportunity for my party to step forward. It's almost too late for my party to step forward in this. Even the chairman or something could come out and make some statements, but we should have been involved a lot earlier.
Well, no, this is the right time. It just started. I mean,
It's true. It's the right time. I'll take it from you 'cause
I know that.
I know Larry's been involved forever.
I know
10 years,
that.
Me too.
I know that a lot of clubs, Democrat, Republicans, and what else, will be taking a visit and will be endorsing yay or nay on the bond program. By the time it gets to maybe early September, there's going to be a lot of club meetings that, people will probably be going before and asking them to open their conscience and vote no on this bond because of the effect it's going to have in the inner city and the closure of these schools. And I always say, why don't they just adjust the boundaries? I mean, I don't know why that in itself is a big task, but I also understand that strong neighborhood parents would definitely not agree to that, and thus those elected officials won't touch changing boundaries with a 10-foot pole. It's too political.
Now, I want to add to
All right, go ahead.
something you just said. That back when we got Idea Allen, now the state commissioner, of course, we're talking about a Republican administration
Williams.
at the state level. The state commissioner, when he found out that the school board here had cut the contract with Idea Public Schools, that he told the Austin ISD, hey, look, you cut that contract, but you also cut an agreement with me because he was in on it, and he told the school district, hey, look, you have to bring back Idea Allen, or bring back something as good as or better than Idea Allen. The school district did not do that. The school district got by saying, well, Commissioner, what we'll do is we'll get the elementary schools up to par, and we'll redo Martin Junior High, middle school to feed into Johnston. But none of that worked. And so Allen remained closed.
They kicked the can down the road.
And so that's something they could look at.
And then they hired a firm, didn't they? Almost.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask Larry about, what is your ideas on charter schools?
Charter schools. I think charter schools have their place. I think if they can come in and do like Idea Public Schools did. I got a
Shop was key, or?
I got a chance to look at the Idea Public Schools in South Texas, and now if they can work side by side with the public schools and make an improvement, I think that's good. Now the pros, that's on the good side. The bad side is if they can agree to get all the students and not get what they call candy coded students or that type.
Yeah, I've heard that story too.
And so if they can do like Idea Allen, accept everyone and make it a neighborhood school, then it will be okay. The school that's working at Montopolis, that's Idea Allen Bulldogs, that should have been there at Allen and on Gonzalez Street, not in Montopolis. So anyway, that type of situation, it can work, but people have to work together to combine resources.
Okay, the board's not elected. That's only but that bad thing about. And if the schools hadn't got so weirdo like they have, then we wouldn't be having them anyway.
But the results, the academic results, also show that they're being effective. And again, I always ask why. At UT Elementary, for example, the majority of the professors, or those that know the people at UT Elementary, they enroll their kids into UT Elementary. And I say, wait a minute, there's a reason why they're doing that and not putting them in the public schools in the neighborhoods they live, So there must be something good, I guess, going on at those facilities, especially when they achieve academically. And I think that, there's so many, going back to school choice, parents today not only do charter schools, but they also homeschool. That's another way of educating the kids. But if, you're District 2 Rep. Jamie told us at Met's Rec Center that pass or fail the bond, the schools were still going to close.
Yeah.
He said that they weren't in a position to remain open in the future.
That was a funny situation because here's a scene on the meeting last week at Metz Park. Jamie was asked at the end, he was asked, well, if because Jamie had just finished saying, if the bond doesn't pass, we're going to have to close schools. So someone in the audience asked him, okay, so you're saying if the bond doesn't pass, they're going to have to close schools. What if it does pass? Are you going to have to close schools? And he would not answer the question because that's whether it passes or not, schools are planned to get closed.
And with that, you have, 3 potentially vacant buildings, and it's interesting that charter schools have a waiting list.
Yeah.
And our public schools are empty.
Can I say something here about that real quick? You got 3 empty schools. You got charter schools that will instantly fill them up.
Oh yeah, and
if charter school take charge any of those, they'll be at capacity almost instantly.
You're right.
And that's another risk factor that AISD is taking, because when parents
want that.
When parents see the disruption and the inconsistency of whether 2 years they go to this school and the next following 2 years they go to another one, that's why a lot of them say, you know what, I'll just go to a more permanent place, which is a a charter school, you know,
What a great idea.
Yeah, IDEA, UT Elementary, KIP, Southwest Keys, you know. And those schools are full. So, and many parents that are in AISD have also had the charter experience, and it was a negative one, and they'll tell you, you know, I pulled my child out of a charter school. But again, you know, today with the technology that we have, our children, all children learn so much differently now, you know, that you have to entertain different education approaches. But yeah, so, you know, that's the other risk that we have, or that the district will have, is that they become empty, and these charter schools are in need of space. So, you know, I think that UT was wanting to pay $400,000 in rent, you know, for to be able to use Allen.
They could have reduced this down to $400,000 less.
You know, to add to what you just said, with that plan with Idea Allen, that Idea Allen would have been full right now, and Johnson would
Neighborhood kids.
And, yes, and Johnson would have been getting more students at this
When
time.
it come out of Allen and gone into Johnson.
Yes, and the school district was gaining resources because each classroom had an extra assistant teacher on there.
Now, let me get this straight. Neighborhood kids would have gone into Allen, they
Yes.
graduated Allen and gone into Johnson.
Yes,
Neighborhood kids.
yes, and they would have gotten an AISD diploma, and those kids would have stayed in the school district, and the plan, they could have expanded that to Brook. We wouldn't have to be worrying about Brook right now as well. So that's the situation that the school board, because of politics with the teachers union, did away with. So now we're stuck in this situation right now, and they refuse to undo those mistakes of the past.
And on November 7th, this isn't going to be the only item on the ballot. You're going to have the state constitution laws that were passed
I
by
ain't even looked.
our legislature. They're not on there yet, but they're going to be on. There are going to be some laws that the legislature passed recently where voters have to give approval. And so as we begin educating people, especially in these schools, one of the things that amazed me at the METS meeting was the number of parents that came out to voice their opinion on this particular bond, whereas in the past, it was very difficult to get people out because a lot of them, it was apathetic, and a lot of them was, well, it's, you know, it's a done deal, you know, they're going to do it anyway, so why waste my time and get out there?
How you want to make a bet if Jamie is going to make a report on that meeting to the school board, that he will come out with the truth on how that meeting went?
Well, you know, he did tell us, or he did say there that he was just one vote. He used that, you know.
Oh, my God.
You know, about when they asked him
Real
about
leadership there, Jamie.
when they asked about his position or you know how he felt about the schools closing in East Austin, all the schools, and he said, "Well, I'm just one vote," you know. But behind the scene, or really not even behind the scene, he's been all along pushing, in my opinion, for the closure of these schools. And
The last 2 years.
Yeah, the last 2 years. So I don't know where an educator like him
He's looking
comes
at the
with
bottom line.
what, you know, what. But, you know, the district's a district. And this is why about 20 years ago, the late Dorothy Turner and the Black Citizen Task Force, we were organizing to split from AISD, to create our own district. And as we gradually grew and organized and headed towards that endeavor or that effort, you know, then all of a sudden the district made some concessions and some agreements and some changes where that, you know, it kind of disillusioned the group. But we knew all along that today we were going to be facing this issue of are we going to be closing schools and opening schools out in the outskirts, you know, to meet their, you know, overcapacity issues. But, and here we are, you know, so, but there is there is a way to contribute to this and to prevent it from happening, and that's for us to go out and vote, on that day.
That's,
We may not have to worry about it anyway. All I see now is couples with dogs. They ain't having any kids anymore, so especially
But-
on the east side.
But, we still are paying taxes, as taxpayers, that's another argument, that's another angle, we've been taxed to the max,
Let me throw this one in real quick if I could. From House Park to football field, improved press box, ADA included, improved concessions and restrooms. $6 million? Couldn't a couple $100,000 have taken care of that? You're talking about the press box. You've been to House Park Field.
Oh, yeah, I've been,
And the restroom, that's just there's a cinder block, buildings back there. What do you do? Paint them?
Yeah.
$6 million? Who comes up with this stuff?
well,
LBJ, hold on, one more. LBJ Vertical Team Modernization Project. What the hell is that? What the heck is that? $25 million? That's what that is?
well, again, this is a wish list, that
I can darn sure
Yeah.
wish for that.
elected officials
I could use me some of that
representing
vertical team
supposedly
modernization.
their interests were able to get on this bond package, and it takes what, 6? Is it 6 on the school board or 5? No, 5.
oh,
a majority?
The majority, it's 5-4 would be a
Yeah,
majority.
5-4.
Sure like to get on this thing too. Undesignated furniture improvements, $5 million? You can improve some hell of furniture for that much.
Now you have the other
see that?
you have the other side of the discussion on this issue, and that's the developers, the vendors, the construction workers, all those people, the Chamber of Commerce, all those people are going to make money out of this.
And somebody getting a
You
cut.
know,
Somebody getting a big cut.
What you're going over those figures now, on the north, far north side of Austin, schools, they need schools out there. Southeast Austin, they need a high school, and yet those big issues were not tackled in this bond election, and those are urgent items. Now, one of the things we talk about equity also. I went to Brook, Go Valley, and Palm schools, which became Sanchez. Now, if I look at Brook and I look at Go Valley, my two schools, I would say they both need improvements equally. So ideally, you would think maybe if one gets 5 million, the other should get 5 million. But no, if you look at it, Go Valley is going to get, I forgot, $36 million.
it's on there.
And Brook was just scheduled for, I don't know, just a few million.
Ann Richards, Go Valley,
Yeah.
$32,500,000.
And is Brook on there?
You thought I seen it, I don't see it now.
So they forgot about Brook. They said,
Yeah.
well, they're
Yeah, I
going to
don't see
close.
Brook on here.
They're going to close, so we're not going to put any money in there. But that's a big discrepancy. There's no other school that gets $30 million, right?
I'm still stuck on
And
this
I'm just saying an
football field.
elementary school. And I love my Go Valley Elementary, but, that's a big discrepancy.
Damn,
It shouldn't be.
I
Now,
can't get over this.
Now, one other thing I want to mention real quick on the effect that this has on the kids at Johnson and LBJ. They're gonna wonder what's going to be happening this semester until the bond. What happens to them? What's their future going to be like if it passes or if it doesn't pass? They're going to be going over as well as the teachers as well. I'm sorry.
No, well, just look at that's.
Well, there is a big psychological impact here, because when the schools open this year, some of the schools and students and parents are going to be proud, happy because school's opening. You're opening a new academic year, whatever. Yet schools in our area are going to say, "Well, this is our last year,"
Yeah, that's right.
So psychologically, when they go into the school, there's no celebration of
The Brook parents, especially.
of continuing our tradition academically here. So the environment is going to be like, well, this is our last year, and that we're not going to be here, and like you say, we don't know where we're going to be going or where they're going to be busing us to or taking us to, but
And what's the future going to be like at Johnston? with the new students, the students that are not from the neighborhood that are going to be there? What's the future going to be like at Anderson with new territory there for students? It psychologically, you're right. It's going to have an impact there.
And a lot of those uncertainties do cause parents to send their children somewhere else.
That's right.
Because that's another thing. They talk about the old Anderson site, and that it was a landfill. Before, but if you look at the surroundings, and they always talk about, well, they can go east and connect with ACC. That's the big gain. New school, ACC, partner, engage, and whatever. But what they don't look at is that area. If you look at the statistics, is a very, very high crime area. You have Rosewood, you have the park, you have the tracks, you have prostitution, you have all these kind of negative activities in or around that facility where, parents aren't going to want to send their 14, 15-year-old kids,
It wasn't like that back when they closed it, was it? 75.
So.
We got 3 minutes.
But that's another security factor, and that one they just ignore completely. I mean, they ain't, like.
Their kids ain't going there. Well, they care.
Yeah.
It'd be like that. But
Yeah.
And the president did tell me, Kendall Pace did share with me that, they're going to get a brand new school. I said, well, a brand new school doesn't guarantee success.
That's true.
So.
Back to school bash is coming up.
That's right.
And I can't put them on the screen, but there's one in Dove Springs coming up for sure. That'll be next Saturday, I think it is. The big one downtown.
Both of them are going to be.
Robert Kimby really put together a hell of a show on last Saturday. We don't have the pictures to show you, but it was really good. I can't get out like I used to.
That's the one I was talking to about, Robert, that you were telling.
Yeah.
Okay.
He did a backpacks, it was a car show, it was all kinds of neat stuff. But Dove Springs at the Rec Center is also having one this weekend.
Right. There are two big back-to-school batches. One is at Dove Springs.
Dove Springs Rec Center.
I'm not too sure about their hours.
No, I'm not either. It's on the flyer I sent out.
And then the large one is at AISD. Excuse me. The large one is at the Palmer Event Center this Saturday, and they start at 9. And you usually get around anywhere from 4,000 to 5,000 kids go through the one that AISD has. I'll be out there registering voters. I'll have a LULAC voter
I
registration
do admire
booth.
both of y'all, especially Larry. You need to come on more because I know
And,
you're always into the AISD.
So
Well, thank you for inviting me,
Education.
both
Sure.
of you guys, and I enjoyed being here tonight with you.
It's good. I know you're going to keep it up too. I don't know. I'd like to see my party do a lot more, and you're right. This is a good time for them to stand up. I don't believe I have maybe one halfway conservative school board member. That's it. We're down to a minute. Yeah, we'll be back next week. There you go. There you are, Larry.
Oh, yes, that is me. People can reach me on my Facebook page if they want.
10-4.
Larry Amaro.
10-4, that's good. And they need to go out there and reach out there to you. Because we've been involved a lot of years now.
Yeah.
We've
How
been
long
to-
have you had your show here, Ed?
Almost 20 years now.
20 years? Wow, that's a long time.
Well, we are the longest, well, 1 minute. We are the longest running show down here.
Wow.
Continuous.
I feel like I've just been here a short while with just 6 years.
No, remember, we have, I got pictures of me and you, Gavino, all over the place. It's cool stuff.
Wow,
And Gavino will be back anyway. 15 seconds, folks. We'll be back next week.
we'll see y'all next week.
Mike Lee will be next. He's got a tape show coming on, but next week he's got a real good show coming on, and he'll be in here live for that one. And we got some stuff coming on next week too, folks. So stay involved. This is a good. Oops.